Good morning, everyone. Slight apologies for the delay of us all getting on with a few technical issues. All the perks of being live, I suppose. I'd like to welcome you to the Careers in Medicine session. And just before we start, I'd like to inform you that the session is being recorded and that all microphones are muted. If you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A function and we'll answer them at the end of the session. I will now pass you over to Kishan.
Thank you, Annabelle. Cheers. So, hello, good morning, everybody. Lincoln is a place that is very special in my heart, so it's brilliant to be able to join you this morning, and it's even better not to have to drive up the 2.5 hours from Watford to come to Lincoln. I'm delighted to be joined today by Alicia and Somaya, who I'll let them introduce themselves. Annabelle's got some slides that she's just pulling up, which is a bit of the technical problem. So while we're getting those up, I thought I'd talk about what the structure of this talk is. You've got 3 very different people at very different stages in their career, but all completely accessible and want to answer your questions. So we're only going to talk for maybe 5-10 minutes each and give a brief overview of our career to date, where we're going, what we're doing, what we'd like to do moving forward. But more importantly, we're reflecting back in terms of how it's relevant for people on the Insight into Health and Care Careers conference. Because a lot of the skills that you will get, whether you are a medical student, a nursing student, any kind of allied healthcare professional, are so transferable. They're so generic. And what my motivation is for doing these kind of events is to make sure that we keep that talent within the NHS. We keep that talent within the healthcare ecosystem such that we don't lose it. There's nothing wrong with banking and management consulting, but the fact that the taxpayer has paid so much into people's training, it would be great if it stays within the NHS. So thank you for that, Annabelle. So here we go. So this is an intergenerational approach to medical careers, and it's tales from a doctor, me, born in 1986, a medical or medicinal biochemist undergraduate born in 1999, and then if that doesn't make you feel really old, a medical student born in 2002 when I was doing my GCSEs and failing some of them. We can go to the next slide, please, Annabelle. So, hello, I'm Kishan. Apologies, I couldn't get a childhood photo. I've let the sides down. Both Alicia and Somaya managed to do it last night, and it was even my suggestion. So this is me outside the Shard going cycling. And I'll tell you more about that later. We've got the next slide, please. A quick disclaimer, I'm incredibly grateful for all my employers for letting me come out and talk, but I'm talking in a personal capacity today. This is more relevant for the questions later on, to be perfectly honest. If we go on to the next one, please. Okay, the theme of my talk is if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. So I'm going to hand over to Alicia for her little introduction.
Hi, I'm Alicia. I'm a 3rd year medical biochemist at the University of Leeds. So the aim of my talk is the importance of having a backup plan. There we go.
Brilliant. If we go on to Somaya, here we go.
Hi, I'm Somaya and I'm a 1st year medical student at Holyoke Medical School, and I'm just going to share my journey to medicine.
Brilliant. Fine. So if we go on to the next one, thanks, Annabelle. So this is my maternal grandparents, and the first experiences of the medical profession that I had growing up were not very good ones. So my mum and her family came from Uganda in the 70s when they were kicked out by Idi Amin, and my grandfather, on the right here, a successful businessman in Uganda, when he sought medical help, bearing in mind I wasn't even born at this time, as I told you, I was born in 86. But when he sought medical attention, he was, bearing in mind he was a successful businessman back in Uganda and worked very hard. When he came into the UK and he saw his GP, he was dismissed. His symptoms of lethargy and back pain and really severely unwell was dismissed. And it was hearing these stories growing up when he was told that there's nothing wrong with you, you're just a lazy immigrant, you need to get used to the British way of life. Hearing those stories growing up definitely influenced me, because unfortunately the results for my parents' family, or my mum's family and her parents, were devastating. Jamnadas actually had spinal tuberculosis. By the time they operated on him, it was too late, and he sadly passed away in Stanmore Hospital, and he was left in persistent vegetative state because they botched the operation. So hearing those stories growing up definitely shaped me in terms of wanting to do medicine. If we go on to the next slide, please. Unfortunately, it wasn't as plain sailing as that in terms of wanting to do medicine and doing medicine are two very different things. And I'm sure everybody that's on the audience on the call now, looking at these GCSEs and A-levels thinking, bloody hell, they let him in to do medicine. Well, yes, they did. I'm incredibly grateful that Leicester University did. But interestingly, the funny thing that Leicester University said was the reason that they let me in was because I was also, in addition to doing this, I was working part-time in Specsavers from the age of 15 until 22. And they felt when I applied at 17 that to work 2 years part-time and consistently at holidays and weekends, to demonstrate that kind of commitment, to demonstrate that kind of degree of multitasking was the sort of skills that they would like in Leicester Medical School. So I'm incredibly grateful for that, but it was touch and go. And I guess for everybody on the call who's at that kind of stage doing your exams, you need to remember that your teachers they have the best intentions and best intentions for you at heart, but they'll advise you on the black and white and the grades in front of you. Forget about the fact that it's COVID and we've got a year through the pandemic, so it's even harder, and that you've got biased algorithms with prejudice baked into them, making life harder for people. Forget about all that. But reflecting back on my career, if people looked at these GCSEs, 1 A star, 4 A's, 4 B's, 2 A's, A2, AS, a C in chemistry and a U in maths, which I'm particularly proud of because I didn't work really hard for that actually. I stopped working hard for maths because I realised that it's going to start damaging the other 2 grades. So again, it's having insight, but then we got there in the end. So I guess what I'm saying to you is the GCSEs, the A-levels are absolutely critical to set you on a path, but it is not insurmountable. If there's a problem or you fail, there are always ways round, which is the theme of this talk that we're going to go to. So we go to the next one, please. This one is about my suboptimal exam performance. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, which anybody on the call who wants to connect and get in touch on LinkedIn, I'd encourage you to do so. And if you speak to me this weekend and say you're on this call, I'd be happy to chat. But if you look at that and you look at this, the public perception or the public projection of one's career is so different to what it's actually like behind the scenes. So this is almost my roll call of failure throughout the years. At the time, it was seen as failure. Now it is. I'm glad that this has happened because it's nudged me in the direction of my career where I've ended up going. I do remember writing on the member of Royal College of Surgeons exams, failure is only temporary. It only becomes permanent when you give up. So see you later. If I go on to the next slide, please. So from those pretty dodgy origins in terms of GCSEs and A-levels, it is possible to turn it around. That process started in 2004 when I was at medical school, and I got my medical degree in 2009. 2007, I almost got kicked out because I had to sit the qualifier exam, and we'll go into the reasons for that in a second because I think it's relevant. And then my career only really took off, my medical career, was when I left training. So in 2009, I did foundation training. I did 2 years as a junior doctor, foundation year 1, foundation year 2 in Leicester. Loved it, loved every minute of it, really enjoyed it. Then the next 2 years was core surgical training. So I spent 2 years operating on people and training to become a surgeon. But that MRCS exam, that hurdle I just couldn't get through, was a real shame. I wanted to become a surgeon. I enjoyed operating on people. They were happy. I was good at it. I could explain it, but I couldn't pass the exams, and I wasn't sure why at that point. So in 2013, I went to Lincolnshire to be a teaching fellow. Incredibly grateful for Lincoln and Lincoln County Hospital to pay for medical education masters and a master of business administration. So a district general hospital, 70 million in the red, paying between 30 and 45,000 pounds of fees that I could never afford. Incredibly grateful. So I've made up for some of the deficits in my GCSEs. You'll be pleased to know in the accounting and finance modules and business economics on the MBA, I still tanked. But there's a common theme here, isn't there? Somebody that's working hard, that's motivated, that's engaged, but isn't quite getting the academic results afterwards. So if we go into the next slide, please. And I think there's a build on this one, so that's great. So this is where I am now. Okay, this is a CV on a slide, a portfolio career with innovation throughout. And I've always been keen to improve patient care by numerous routes, both internal and external to the NHS, as I'm sure you can understand why, given my backstory and my family's backstory. But there's always been this entrepreneurial, creative and innovative approach to medical communications and also problem solving. If we go to the next build, please, Annabelle. So this is what I've done since I left medical school, starting off in Specsavers. That helped me into a clinical environment. So I now don't work in the NHS. I work at the Hospital of St John and St Elizabeth, which is an urgent care centre in London. Medical education is very dear to my heart. I'm an honorary lecturer at Hull York Medical School. And I did my medical education training at Leicester and Nottingham, in the sense my medical degree, my medical education masters, and then MBA. Also set up Prepare for FY1, which is a free open access YouTube resource, which has now got 2.4 million views and 5.3 thousand subscribers. Incredibly privileged to be able to speak out in the media on behalf of not just my view, but those around me who may not have a voice. And also work currently for AstraZeneca. And I've been there since May 2018. That was the job that I left Lincoln for, to go to AstraZeneca. And yeah, so I get to do a lot. It's at odds with what my previous academic back history was. But if we go to the next slide, please, the next build, the common theme that's run throughout this for me was dyslexia. Now, I struggled through all that failure that I was telling you about. I only found out that I got dyslexia when I was 31 years old. So that was 3 odd years ago. And that was because I felt at that point I'd achieved enough in my career. I was the first year of my MBA, so I was still in Lincoln. I'd got a distinction medical education masters, and I'd done some cool other stuff online and on the telly and whatever. But it was only at that point that I felt that I could challenge the stigma of being a dyslexic doctor. So I thought, why not? Let's get tested. It's cheaper. Nottingham will let me do it for the educational psychologist report for 250 quid rather than 2.5 grand. And what that report said was, I'm severely dyslexic, but I've got highly advanced coping strategies, and technology is the great leveler. So I'm going to speed up now because I'm coming to the end of my 10 minutes. What next? This slide is deliberately blank because I honestly don't know, because I'm living every day as it comes. If we go on to the next slide, that is because I almost died on the 14th of September. So I almost switched myself off when I fell off my bike, sustained a traumatic brain injury. So I've got 2 temporal lobe bleeds, small, thankfully, but that's been fascinating to learn about traumatic brain injury and the effect that it has on me as a sort of maverick experimenting doctor on myself. I'm allowed to do that. You'll be pleased to know the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration in the States, so that if you're biohacking, you're conducting an N=1 experiment on yourself. So that's okay. And what am I doing to get there in terms of what I'd like to do? The next slide is, well, I'm reading for an MD at Hull York Medical School in the role of media and communication during COVID. I also have the privilege of teaching Somaya and her group, and we'll come on to her shortly. I also do a lot of mentoring and teaching and training, and Alicia is somebody I'm currently mentoring. So I'm going to hand over to Alicia. Thanks.
Hi, so basically the theme of my talk is to talk about the importance of having a backup plan. So I'm going to start off at the beginning of my journey of when I was applying to university. So I didn't always want to do medical biochemistry. Originally, I was very set on applying to medicine. So I did loads and loads of work experience throughout year 10, year 11, year 12, year 13, and I had almost, say, tunnel vision. I was just dead set on medicine. So a lot of you who might be applying to medicine, you know that you can only apply to 4 universities for medicine. So because I was so dead set on medicine, I didn't think about my 5th option. I didn't think there was a need for it. I thought, oh no, medicine, I can just do that. But one of my careers teacher, she was telling me that I really should look into my fifth option and that it actually was really important. So I looked at Leeds, I found medical biochemistry, and I liked that because it had like a big link to medicine. So I was like, well, if I don't do medicine, this is kind of similar. So throughout year 13, I had to do the UK CAT exam. So if any of you are medics, you'll know that the UK CAT exam, it's almost like the medical school entry exam. So most universities require that you get a score of 600 as a minimum, and I got 597. So because of that, I completely missed out on all the entry requirements to medicine. So I was really thankful that I did apply to my fifth option, because otherwise I wouldn't have had anywhere to go. So if we go to the next slide, please. Okay, so these are some photos of the University of Leeds. So right now I'm doing medical biochemistry. So biochemistry, it is the endeavour to study life in molecular detail. And what medical biochemistry is that it relates the structure and function of things in relation to medicine. So what I found throughout my degree is that I'm actually better suited to medical biochemistry than I am medicine. I've actually found that I work better in a lab than I would on a ward. And I really enjoy the challenge of potentially discovering new drugs and vaccines. So by doing that, I still do have that satisfaction of helping people, but it's just in a very different way. But had I not had this backup option, I wouldn't have found that I actually enjoy lab-based work a lot more than medicine. So next slide, please. So where would I like to go? So as I said, I'm in my third year, so I'm coming close to graduating. So where I'd like to go next is probably studying a master's. So at the moment, I'm just applying to masters at lots and lots of different universities. And I'm thinking about going down the drug discovery and the pharmaceuticals route. So I think, yeah, if we go on to the next slide, because this kind of includes that. So how am I going to get there? So to do a master's, I think it's really important to have lots of work outside of just your normal uni degree. So I've spent the last 2 years in crystallography working with Dr. Trietrin. So he's one of my tutors at uni. And I found that one of the most important things at uni is to make sure that you network and that you form relationships with your professors and you kind of take everything you can get. So by having this relationship with my tutor, I've managed to get a lot of lab-based experience. And by doing this, this is really going to help me when I apply to my master's and also to future jobs because I'm going to have that experience. So because my talk's mainly about the importance of having a backup plan, I'm kind of remembering this and thinking, not just focusing on applying to a master's and also have other backup options. So I'm also looking at graduate jobs as well, and just looking at lots of different areas I can go into, making sure that I apply to lots of different masters so I have more options, and making sure that I do apply to those graduate jobs or even placements. So that is going to be my plan for the next year. So yeah, I think that kind of summarises my journey and what I would like to do in the future. So I'll pass on to
I'm Somaya, and I'm going to share my journey to medicine. So a critical fraction of your application to medicine is your work experience. Clearly, Alicia's was beneficial to her because she found out that she doesn't do too good in that patient environment. So I started volunteering in nursing homes and elderly community centres. Here I gained a lot of skills, so communication, teamwork, problem solving, but I always wanted to see like a diverse range of patients and experience more of the under pressure situations. So I think I applied to every hospital in Leeds and every department, but I got rejected for work experience in all of them. I think a lot of that had to do with a lack of contact, because I probably wasn't communicating with the right people. but that kind of motivated me to do something crazy. So I decided to go to Palestine and volunteer in a hospital there. There I got a lot of experience. I seen from angry prisoners coming in, throwing things about in A&E, to walking through the maternity ward, listening to the women scream. I got to take blood and insert cannula, guided by a nurse and observed. And I even experienced patient death, which is quite difficult for medical students and doctors to experience in their career. But I think that experience really taught me how unpredictable medicine is, because you don't know what's going to come through the door and you don't know what experience you're going to get. Next slide, please. Thank you. But like in every journey, there will be some people that will doubt you. So I went to an underperforming school and I had 2 head of years. They were very supportive. One of them told me that medicine is an unrealistic goal and I should reconsider, whilst the other one said that I should participate in more programs and do the EPQ because she doubted my academic ability. So I said thank you. And as disheartening as this was at the time, because it was really disheartening because I was in a sensitive period where A-levels were really difficult as well, and it was a new transition. But I just decided to not dwell on that negative and work really hard. And that summer, a few months after they said that to me, I got A's and B's in my mocks. But one of them left too early for me to show her my grades. Next slide, please. And in 2018, I applied for Pathways to Medicine with Holyoke Medical School. This was my support system, which I didn't experience in my school. And I met a lot of medical students that didn't come through that standard way of finishing your A-levels, going into the 5th year course. A lot of them were actually graduates, so for example from biochemistry, biomedical courses, and even foundation years, and they got transitioned in. So instead of thinking what my teachers' opinions were on me, I decided to continue working hard, getting more of that experience, earning more skills. And basically what I want you from this slide to remember is don't focus too much on the path to where you want to go. So every path to every successful career will have a lot of obstacles on it, and it's a really bumpy path. Instead of focusing on all those obstacles, focus on that end goal, because that end goal will give you that passion that'll be like your bodyguard to every obstacle, and you'll overcome it regardless of what the obstacle is. Next slide, please. So I want to be a doctor to help families the way doctors help myself and my family. So personally, I always wanted to be a doctor. And I know that's not the case for everyone, because that decision comes with time. But as a child, my mom was a registered nurse in Poland, and sometimes there was nobody to take care of us, so she'd take me to work, and I'd sit in the staff room with the nurses and the doctors. So I was kind of exposed to that environment from a young age. But I think what really got me to want to do medicine is my mom. So my mom has a rare neurological illness, which is a 1 in a couple million. And it took 18 years for her to get a diagnosis. This disease meant a lot of times waking up to the sound of paramedics, the ambulance, and when she was admitted to the ICU, I'd had to visit her. So seeing the doctors, how they helped me and my family, I really want to do that for another family. And another thing is, with medicine, you get exposed to a lot of research. And if I ever in my career come across some rare illnesses, obviously not all, because I don't think I'll be capable to research into every single rare illness. But if I do come across one, I do want to research it, because I know a lot of research goes into the common diseases. But that doesn't mean that the rare diseases don't affect people and their families. So instead of brushing them under the rug, I do want to do some research into them. Next slide, please. So in my opinion, the easier, quicker journeys to your dreams are not actually always the most beneficial ones, because any obstacles are actually giving you strength. So they benefit you. They allow you to adapt to a diverse range of situations that you will come across in life and in careers, especially in healthcare careers. next slide, please. For example, in my case, I'm so happy I got onto the 6-year course, because the A-levels were cancelled this year because of the pandemic. And if I cannot see myself getting onto the 5-year course after 6 months of not studying, instead I learned how to cook during the pandemic. That's just a picture of all the food that I've made. But I can't imagine getting onto the 5-year course. I think the 6-year course is like so beneficial for me, because it gives me that warm up to what first year, second year, third year is going to be like. So basically, don't let anyone get in between you and your dreams. And yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. Well done, Somaya. Thank you. And one thing that I'd just say to everybody on the call, that Somaya only asked me 24 hours ago. She said that she'd like to do talks to people wanting to get into medicine. So little did she know that the flexible, agile way that I work is, okay, yeah, fine, we're doing this on Saturday, here you go. So well done, Somaya, that was amazing. Considering you're, 11 weeks into medical school and you've had 24 hours notice for that talk, I think it's fantastic, so well done. I think we might have Q&A now, is that right, Annabelle?
Yeah, are you happy for me to read them out and then?
Yeah, of course, if that's easier.
Yeah, might be easier. Okay, so first we've got, in simple question, what is your LinkedIn profile?
It's just my name, Kishan Rees. I can send you a link as well, Annabelle, so you can distribute it. So that one's sorted.
Okay, so next one, I don't know who wants to answer this one, but is Leicester Medicine?
I would also say Alicia and or Somaya, I don't know whether they've got them. If they want to be contacted, then ask them as well. But it's got a nod from Alicia. Don't know whether Somaya set hers up yet. Yes. Okay. So we will provide them after the call. Okay. So is Leicester Medical School a good school? I'm biased, but yeah. I'm going to try and be as quick as I can. That's fine. Because I know we've got loads that we want to get through. Okay, so some medical schools don't use personal statements anymore and just use grades to get the MMI. Do you think you would have got in as an undergraduate if you applied now? No, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think, you know, the problem that we have here is careers advisors telling kids at school, and this is why I put the disclaimer here, right? These are my personal views, and this is not representative of anybody who employs me, but historically, careers advisors would tell people, oh, you're smart, we're predicting you 500,000 A stars, a string of them. You need to be clever to go and do medicine. Why don't you go and do medicine? They are not the people that will be the best doctors. The people that will be the best doctors are the ones that have life experience or reasons or that real fire in their belly in terms of why they want to do it. Because I tell you what, Annabelle, medicine is tough. Medicine and the training, then the working is tough. So unless you love it and you really, really, really want to do it, don't do it. And if we put a few people off from this call, then that would be a good thing, because you can go off and have very successful careers in allied healthcare professions and other areas, but medicine is not the be all and end all. I love it. I think the follow-on question is, would I do it again? 100%, without a shadow of a doubt. The skills that it's allowed me to give me to go on and do stuff, I would 100% do it, but I wouldn't. It's not for everybody. Okay, so is it a must to do work experience to get into university? Yeah, but I think let's go to Somaya for that one. I think she's closer to that than I am.
Could you repeat the question, please?
So is it a must that they must have work experience to get into university?
Yes. So this is like, yes. So first of all, you really need to see yourself if you actually want to sacrifice your life to it. Now, this is dramatic, but medicine is a lifelong course. And if you have some doubt, there's just no point in doing it, because you'll burn out. And another thing is, you need to show your skills. That's what they're looking for in that personal statement, is those communication, teamwork, listening, problem solving skills. So it's essential. Yes, I can't stress it enough. Yes.
It's an interesting phrase, Somaya, that you say sacrifice your life to it, right? And I think when I was struggling through medical school with undiagnosed dyslexia, I was sacrificing my life to it, in the sense that I didn't see family, friends, I didn't make a good enough network at medical school. When I'd come home for Christmas, I'd leave after 2 weeks and my dad would be like, oh, it was nice that you were here, because I'd literally been in my room 23 hours a day. It was almost like solitary. I'd come out to eat and go to the bathroom or something. That's it. Not at the same time, I hasten to add. But that's the level of going through with undiagnosed dyslexia. But that is true for many medical students and many people going into medical school, because the educational system, GCSEs, A levels, IB, maybe IB, I don't know, I didn't do it, but certainly GCSEs and A levels do not prepare you with the skills that you need to be a medical student. And there's a distinct difference between being a medical student and going to university.
Brilliant. Okay, so next question is what is biochemistry?
Alicia, I think you're best for this, aren't you?
Yeah. So biochemistry at the moment, it is like a massive mix of biology and chemistry. And what I've been studying a lot is you kind of do like your DNA transcription, you kind of learn about that. It's kind of hard to explain.
I mean, one thing that I would say is in terms of, certainly I've only learned about this from having gone into the pharmaceutical industry, from molecule to man, so i.e. a drug discovery entity in terms of molecule, some kind of whatever, the active substance in a medication, that process going all the way through to a medication and a tablet that you take involves whole teams of researchers around the world. And we'll have seen with the COVID-19 effort, to have 3 viable candidates in the world in 10 months, the number of scientists, researchers, statisticians, patients, above all volunteering, that are required in that background to get us to that point is immense. And Alicia is doing stuff right at the beginning of that drug discovery journey.
Yeah,
that's the toppest line answer I can give.
Brilliant. So a bit more personal one for you, Kishan. When you suffered your injuries, when you had your accident, did knowing about your injuries make the experience any worse?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Who asked that? If they're allowed, if they want their name to be, no one's asked me that.
I've got a Ben.
Ben, that is a fantastic question, Ben. So, no, it made it better because so when I came off the bike. I'll try and do this as quick as we can. Came off the bike, had a 30-minute memory loss, 5-minute seizure, half an hour where my airway was a bit dodgy. It was a bit weird waking up, being stripped down to your boxer shorts, naked, and HEMS, the helicopter emergency medicine, are looming over you. Because apparently I was quite combative and they were worried about my airway. So I'm just glad I came round and they didn't intubate me. But actually, the skill and the knowledge that I've got from a medical perspective, it served myself and my family better during COVID because my mum was locked down 2.5 weeks before lockdown even became a thing. She was shielding before shielding became a thing because I was looking at what was happening around the world. And it probably made me a bit of a difficult patient, to be honest, in hospital. Not the staff in Royal Tunbridge Wells were lovely, but it's just a function of how the care happened. So I had input from a neurosurgeon. I didn't need neurosurgery, thankfully, but the neurosurgeon said 24 hours of neuro-obs and go on Keppra, which is a medication which is an anti-epileptic. And I said, okay, I'll do the neuro-obs, that's fine, but I don't want to take Keppra because I've had a traumatic seizure. I don't need to take Keppra, I don't have epilepsy. So then that 24 hours became 48, then 72. And then they discharged me when I said that I'd get private neurological opinion. And on Friday morning at 8:30, when I went by a taxi, which is COVID risk, to the thing because I didn't know whether I could drive, and also then a tube back, I spoke to the neurologist and he was like, yeah, you don't need to take it at all. So no, it didn't make it worse for my injury. It made it a lot better. And that's why I love medicine and I would encourage anybody to go into it. The skills that you get, yes, bankers might want to take you, yes, management consultants might want to take you, but we need to focus on getting the people in that are right for medicine right at the beginning.
Brilliant. So unfortunately, that is all we have time for.
Can we have another 10 minutes because we started late, Annabelle? Go on.
We've got the other session started.
Do you want to leave us with them and we could like chat?
As soon as I leave, it leaves, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But what I will suggest, if it's okay with you, Kishan, can we give you the questions and I can then distribute all your answers and the girls' answers to all the audience?
Depends. How many questions are there?
There is probably about 25 more.
25 more. Okay, so I mean, we wouldn't be able to do them in this time anyway. Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, why don't Alicia, Somaya and I, after the call, we'll spend 15 minutes answering them. And then if you email them to us now, we will email them back to you with our LinkedIn details.
That'd be brilliant. So I think you've got quite some eager people asking questions. We could be here all day, I think. But I'd like to thank you all for presenting and giving up your day today, and thank everyone else for coming. We will be sending an evaluation form to the audience. If you could just spend 5 minutes to complete it, and also we'll give you instructions on how to get your resources and the recordings, and you'll just need to sign up to our work experience portal. But again, I'd like to say thank you for everyone, and I will end the live session now.
Cheers, Annabelle. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.